In a bustling coffee shop on a rainy afternoon, Mia stood behind the counter, her apron tied tight around her waist. The warmth from the espresso machine felt comforting, fighting off the chill seeping in from outside. She caught sight of him again, the same man who came in every Friday at 3 o'clock. He was tall, with deep-set eyes that seemed to hold a world of thoughts. His name, David, she remembered from his order a cappuccino with a touch of cinnamon. Mia knew she shouldn't notice him so much. She was focused on her job, serving customers and keeping everything running smoothly. Yet there was something about David that pulled at her curiosity. Maybe it was the way he always smiled, or how he took a moment to thank her, his eyes lightening for just a second. Today, as the rain tapped against the window, she saw him approach the counter, his usual friendly grin in place. "Sure thing," she replied, glancing down to avoid too much eye contact. She started the machine, listening to the whir and hiss of the milk frothing. He asked, leaning against the counter, casual and relaxed. Mia felt her cheeks heat up. I just hang out with friends or read," she mumbled, hoping her shyness didn't show too much. "I'd like to hear what you read someday," David said with an easy smile. She shook her head, laughing nervously. "Oh no, I'm just a barista." David looked genuinely surprised. "I doubt that. Everyone has a story." As she finished making his drink, Mia felt a small flutter in her stomach. The way he talked made her feel special, but the idea of stepping outside her comfort zone was terrifying. "Maybe next time," she said, handing him the cappuccino, trying to sound nonchalant. He took the drink, but she saw the disappointment flash across his face before he masked it with a smile. As he walked away, Mia glanced out the window, feeling a bit guilty. It wasn't that she didn't want to hear about his stories, she just felt too anxious to share hers. Each Friday was a mix of excitement and worry. She found herself looking forward to his visits, wishing she could muster the courage to be more open, to talk more like a friend than a stranger. Later that week, as she worked her shift, her manager, Sarah, calmly walked up. Mia's heart raced. Had she done something wrong? "Sure," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Sarah motioned her to come into the back room. "I have a favor to ask." Mia nodded, her pulse quickening at the thought of him. "He's been talking about you," Sarah continued, her tone casual. "He's a friend of mine." Mia froze. "What?" "Yes, you." Her manager smiled, a sparkle of mischief in her eyes. Mia felt her heart race again. Did he really see her that way? The thought made her a mix of happy and scared. "I don't think I can." Sarah shook her head, playful yet serious. "Mia, he called you by your name." The reality of those words hit her hard. She repeated, needing to let that sink in. "Exactly. You could have dinner with us. Take the chance." Mia thought about it, her mind racing. What if it went poorly? What if she embarrassed herself? Still, a part of her, a hopeful little spark, whispered that maybe this was an opportunity she couldn't ignore. "Okay, I'll do it," she finally said, surprising even herself. Sarah beamed, clapping her hands together. "Great, I'll let him know." As the days passed, Mia's nerves tightened. She wondered what dinner would be like. Would David expect her to talk the entire time, or would it be awkward silence? Saturday night arrived, and Mia stood in front of her mirror, trying on different outfits. In a way she didn't want, finally she settled on a simple yet pretty dress. It was blue, a color she felt gave her a little confidence. When she arrived at the restaurant, the ambience was warm, candlelit tables flickering in the quiet space. Mia spotted Sarah right away, waving her hand like a lighthouse guiding her in. And next to her sat David, looking at ease, a smile spreading across his face when he saw Mia. "Mia, so glad you made it," he said, standing to give her a warm hug. At that moment, all her worries seemed to fade. "Thanks for inviting me," she replied, feeling a shy smile escape. They settled into their seats, and the conversation flowed easily at first. They laughed about stories from work, exchanged jokes. It felt normal, like they had known each other forever. David even made her laugh so hard she nearly spilled her water. But as the night wore on, Mia felt a wave of anxiety crashing in again. What if she had run out of things to say? What if David found her boring now? Just then, Sarah chimed in, pulling her from her thoughts. "Mia is the best at making latte art." David turned to her, eyes wide. "Really? I'd love to see that." Mia felt warmth rush through her. "Oh, I'm not that great," she stammered. "Don't be modest, you have talent. I've seen it," David said with genuine excitement. She smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and embarrassment. Maybe she was more interesting than she thought. Their conversation drifted towards shared interests, books, music, everything that made them happy and human. But with every laugh, Mia felt a nagging thought creep in. What was she doing? Did she really belong here with someone like David? And then, just as they were taking a break between courses, Mia's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it, half expecting to ignore it, but when she saw a text from Sarah, her heart sank. "Hey, just checking in on you both. Make sure Mia doesn't run off again," it read. Mia's stomach twisted. What did that mean? She hesitated, glancing at David, whose face was suddenly serious. He asked softly. She forced a smile, trying to brush it off. David sighed. She bit her lip. "Tell her you're having a great time," he urged. Mia swallowed hard. "I can't." Her voice came out softer than she wanted. "Listen," David said, leaning in closer. "I don't care what your manager has to say. You're here, you're with me." Heart pounding, Mia returned his gaze, feeling a mixture of fear and something like hope. He was so easy to talk to, yet she felt like she was standing on a cliff, debating whether to jump. "Okay," she finally said. She typed back a quick response, letting a hint of cheer slip into her words. As she set the phone back down, a weight lifted. David reached across the table, his fingers brushing against hers for a brief moment. See. Once again, a flutter danced in her stomach, the tension easing just a little more. They finished dinner, digging into dessert, laughter rolling back and forth. And as the night wore on, Mia couldn't help but realize this connection felt special. But just as she eased into the moment, another text came in. This time she didn't even have to look. The waiter walked over, breaking the spell. Sorry, folks. Mia's heart dropped as she glanced at David, who raised an eyebrow, confusion written across his face. Sarah? Yeah, she's a friend of his, Mia blurted, embarrassment flooding her cheeks. David's expression shifted from confusion to something akin to understanding. No, I mean yes and no, Mia felt herself shrink as she avoided his gaze, her courage slipping away. Would he be disappointed? She braced for his reaction, but instead of disappointment, she saw something shift in his eyes. Mia, you are interesting. Anyone who can create beauty in cafe drinks is interesting. There was a stillness between them that felt heavy yet reassuring. His supportive words lifted the fog around her heart, and for the first time that night she felt a little brave. When the meal ended and they walked out into the cool night air, Mia felt lighter, more trusting of herself, and maybe more trusting of David too. He asked as they strolled toward the parking lot. She asked, the nervousness creeping back in. Yes, about us or whatever this is, he said, searching her eyes. I think I'd like to see you again, Mia said, the words pouring out before she could second-guess herself. Good, I'd like that too, he replied, relief and happiness visible on his face, but just as they reached their cars, Mia hesitated. Anything, David replied, standing tall, confidence radiating from him. Mia, he said, holding her gaze, his mouth breaking into a soft smile like a promise. And as they shared a final goodbye, Mia's heart swelled with something she rarely felt, hope. In that moment, she understood that stepping out of her comfort zone was like taking a leap off that cliff, scary and exhilarating all at once. She may have shaken her head at his original request, but now it felt like she had opened a door. And who knew what might be waiting on the other side? She shook her head at his request, a whirlwind of emotion stirring inside her. Just moments earlier, they had been laughing over drinks at the small corner cafe, surrounded by the familiar buzz of chatter and the scent of fresh coffee. But then he asked her a question that turned everything upside down. David said it so casually, as if he were asking her to pass the salt. His eyes sparkled with hope, and for an instant, Mia felt a rush of excitement. But that excitement quickly faded as doubt crept in. Oh, I don't know, she replied, a nervous smile tugging at her lips. I mean, it's just... The words felt like a shield, protecting herself from the vulnerability of really letting someone in. His expression shifted just a fraction, but enough for her to notice. He pressed, his voice low and inviting. Mia opened her mouth, ready to reject that idea again, when the sound of a soft laugh broke through her thoughts. Sarah, her boss, was behind the counter, tidying up the espresso machine. Mia, she said with a teasing lilt in her voice, why don't you let him take you? Mia felt a mixture of embarrassment and surprise. I don't know, Sarah, she stammered, her eyes darting between Sarah and David, but then something changed in Sarah's demeanor. You know, David's a great guy. We've worked together for a while. Mia's heart skipped a beat. The way Sarah said his name with respect and warmth shifted something inside her. David wasn't just a customer anymore. He was someone her boss trusted, someone who mattered. She met his gaze again, and this time it felt different. Fine, she said, her heart racing. One dinner. David's face broke into a wide smile that made her feel lighter. He exclaimed, his eyes shining with excitement. As they exchanged numbers, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that she was stepping onto a tightrope. Could she really trust him? Could she open up and let someone new into her world? The familiar grip of anxiety started to tug at her, but for the first time in a long while, she breathed deeply and smiled back at the challenge. The next few days passed in a blur. Mia found herself daydreaming during her shifts, imagining what dinner would be like. The tension between excitement and fear twisted in her stomach like a coiled spring. They texted back and forth, planning the details, and each ping of her phone made her heart race. Finally, the night arrived. Mia stood in front of her mirror, staring at her reflection. She toyed with her hair, trying to find the perfect balance between casual and elegant. She settled on a simple yet pretty dress, a shade of deep green reminiscent of the forest, and as she looked in the mirror, she felt a flicker of confidence. When she walked into the restaurant, the ambient light dimmed to a warm glow. The sound of laughter and clinking glasses wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. She spotted David at a small table in the corner, waiting with an eager expression. He stood up when he saw her, and the smile on his face made her heart thump harder. Wow, you look amazing, he said, his voice warm and genuine. Mia felt herself blush. Thanks, you clean up pretty well yourself, she responded, taking in his neatly combed hair and tailored shirt. As they settled into their seats, the conversation flowed easily, filled with laughter and shared stories. David spoke passionately about his work, a project that had taken a lot of time and effort. Mia couldn't help but admire the light in his eyes when he talked about something he cared about, and a sense of familiarity began to grow between them. But as the minutes turned into hours, there was a subtle tension in the air, something unspoken lingering just below the surface. They exchanged glances, electric with possibility, but neither of them dared to address it directly. After their plates were cleared, David leaned forward, a hint of seriousness washing over his face. "Mia, I really enjoyed tonight." Before he could finish, the waiter interrupted, placing the dessert in front of them. "On the house," he said, winking before disappearing into the crowd. Mia smiled with delight, and in that moment the tension diffused. She felt lighter again, surrounded by the laughter and warmth of the restaurant. But then her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and saw a text from Sarah. "How's the date?" Mia's heart sank a little. As if to bring her back to reality, she typed out a quick response, keeping it light. "Great." When she looked up again, David had watched her with curiosity. He asked, concern etched on his face. "Yeah, just a text from my boss," she replied, waving a hand dismissively. He raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, she's cool," Mia said, suddenly feeling a little defensive. David grinned, and Mia felt her cheeks flush. He joked, but there was an undercurrent of seriousness in his tone. Mia hesitated, feeling the weight of her words. "I think she likes you." David smiled, but there was a hint of uncertainty in his eyes. His question caught her off guard. "You seem pretty great to me," she said, trying to write off the sudden heaviness in their conversation. But instead of continuing that path, they shifted back to lighter topics, their laughter echoing in the small booth as they finished their dessert. Eventually, the evening drew to a close. They paid the bill, and as they stepped outside, a cool breeze greeted them. Mia wrapped her arms around herself, feeling the chill in the air. David asked, nodding towards the nearby park, its trees softly illuminated by flickering lights. Mia felt her heart race. Walking in the open meant they would have more time together, but it also meant stepping deeper into whatever this was between them. "Sure," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. As they strolled through the park, surrounded by the distant sounds of night, Mia felt a mix of nerves and exhilaration. The conversation had shifted from weather and work topics to dreams and hopes. David shared his aspirations, while Mia found herself revealing pieces of her own life, things she rarely shared with others. "Sometimes I feel like I have so much to say, but the words just get stuck," she admitted, almost surprised at her own honesty. "Let them out," David encouraged. As they walked under the canopy of trees, she felt a sudden urge to tell him everything, to truly open up. As if sensing her struggle, he quietly reached for her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. The warmth of his touch sent an electric flicker through her, anchoring her in the moment. "You're not alone, you know," he whispered. Her heart thudded loudly, resonating with his words, breaking down barriers she didn't even know existed. It felt liberating yet terrifying to let her guard down. But fear was quickly overshadowed by an overwhelming familiarity, a deep need to connect with him. Just as she gathered her courage to share more, the bustling sound of a group nearby caught her attention. A couple of men were laughing loudly, teasing each other over something insignificant, words echoing into the night. She turned back to David, who had noticed the distraction. He sounded a bit disappointed, and it struck her. She didn't want the night to end either. "No," she insisted, shaking her head. "I want to stay." As they continued walking, the tension shifted yet again. They passed a small fountain, the water shimmering under the moonlight, and something felt magical in the air. David's voice was serious now. "Can we make a pact?" Mia looked over, curious. "A pact, no expectations. Just being real with each other. Let's put our walls down and see where this goes." She paused, letting his words sink in. The idea was liberating, freeing her from the unspoken weight of their earlier conversation. "Okay." David smiled, and the flicker in his gaze ignited something deep inside her. Together, they faced not just the park, but the uncertainty of the moment, both daring to take a step forward into the unknown. But then, as if fate had its own plans, something shifted again. Sarah's voice echoed through Mia's mind, a reminder of how she had talked about David, sure of his worth, as if she had known something deep but unspoken all along. As if reading her thoughts, David leaned closer. "Syllables are just words until we make them real." Mia stared at him, caught between disbelief and wonder. "I guess I'm just tuning in," he said lightly. Then he paused, his voice lowering. In that moment, a deep sense of connection swept over her. It was thrilling and terrifying to start peeling back the layers and dive into vulnerability, but just as Mia was ready to respond, the sound of laughter from earlier returned, more pronounced this time. A familiar face appeared, Sarah, walking hand in hand with a friend, her eyes bright and laughing. She called out, spotting them both, "David." Mia's heart raced, feeling exposed. Sarah had just broken through the intimate moment they shared, and there was David's smile, genuine yet complicated, as he exchanged glances between Sarah and Mia. "Hey, fancy running into you," David said, his voice light but with an underlying seriousness. Mia stood still, waiting for the floor to drop. But rather than diminishing their connection, the unexpected presence filled an uncharted space, drawing lines between familiar and new. Then Sarah's laughter rang out, blissfully unbothered. She teased, and David smiled wider, glancing over at Mia. He glanced at Mia, which made her heart swell. Mia nodded slowly, feeling a wave of reassurance wash over her amidst the chaos. "Good, because I've been seeing some sparks flying," Sarah continued, her tone mischievous. And you know what? David looked at Mia, searching for confirmation in her eyes. And in that moment, she realized that sometimes life throws unexpected things right when you start to let go of fear. Perhaps dinner had been the first step that packed a gentle push, but it took Sarah's playful challenge to remind them both that connections could grow even in surprising places. And so, as they stood there, facing the unknown and the laughter in the crisp night air, Mia squeezed David's hand tighter. "Yeah, sparks," she said, feeling a resolute grin form on her lips. Because sometimes shaking your head at fear was just the beginning of something beautiful. She had both her boss and this incredible guy on her side, perhaps on the verge of discovery. All at once, the fear melted away, replaced by a budding hope, the kind that could bloom if only you were brave enough to let it take root. David's voice was light, yet there was a weight behind his words that hung in the air. Mia shook her head, her heart thumping in her chest. Just steps away from the cafe countertop where she poured coffee every day, he leaned against the counter, an eager grin lighting up his face. "I'm sorry, I really can't. I have plans," she replied, her voice wavering slightly despite her firm resolve. Plans, what a silly word. The truth was, she didn't have any plans. She just couldn't imagine being alone with him outside of the familiar chaos of the cafe. David sighed, his smile fading, a flicker of disappointment flashing in his dark eyes. "What if I promise it'll be fun?" A shiver ran through her. I'm really just not into that kind of thing," she stammered, but then a voice pierced the moment, light and teasing. It was Sarah, her manager, who had just walked in from the back room. It felt as if the sunlight had cut through the clouds in that instant. "What's this I hear?" Mia's cheeks flushed hot. She stuttered, racking her brain for something to say. "David here was asking me out," Sarah said, eyes twinkling with mischief. "Oh," Mia shot back, darting a look toward David. His eyes held a mix of surprise and something more, something that made her heart race. Sarah crossed her arms over her chest, a smile widening. "Mia, you should go." Before Mia could respond, David chimed in, "I promise it'll just be dinner." She felt cornered, a mix of anxiety and curiosity bubbling in her. "And he called you Mia, not just the barista," Sarah added, her voice encouraging. That comment hit Mia differently. Why hadn't it registered before? This wasn't just about coffee and cups anymore. As if sensing the shift, David smiled again, this time more genuinely. Mia took a deep breath, her defenses crumbling. "Okay, one dinner," she muttered. David exclaimed, relief washing over his face. Even from that moment, Mia couldn't help but feel a spark of excitement mingled with her apprehension. The next few days felt like a whirlwind. When she arrived at work, she found herself glancing anxiously at her phone every few minutes, waiting for a message from David. He was charming and funny in their conversations, his texts filled with a playful energy that made her heart flutter. But alongside the excitement was a cloud of fear that crept closer with each passing hour. What if she made a fool of herself? What if silence reigned at dinner and they had nothing to say? Saturday finally rolled around. Mia spent hours pacing in front of the mirror, trying on different outfits. Would she look too casual, too overdressed? Every piece of clothing felt wrong, until finally she settled on a simple black dress that hugged her curves just so. When she walked into the restaurant, the familiar hum of conversation wrapped warmly around her. She spotted David at a table in the corner, nervously tapping his fingers on the table. As their eyes met, his face lit up like a lantern against the dark sea of the dining crowd. "Hey, you made it," he said, rising to greet her. He looked handsome in a crisp button-up shirt, his hair neatly styled, and for a moment, all of her anxiety melted away. "Of course I wouldn't miss it," she replied, feeling a playful spark as they settled into their seats. Over the first round of appetizers, conversation flowed easily. They shared laughs, swapped stories about their most embarrassing moments. Mia felt herself loosening up, caught in the rhythm of their shared joy. The nervous chatter she had expected never came, but then came the main course, and with it, a subtle shift in the atmosphere. As they spoke about their interests, David leaned closer, his voice softening. The question hung like smoke in the air, filling the space between them with a tension that felt both exciting and terrifying. I don't know, honestly, I just want to feel less ordinary," she confessed, glancing down. David pressed gently. There was a depth to his voice that made her look back up. Mia hesitated for a moment, but something in his eyes encouraged her. He asked, a mischievous grin appearing. A smile tugged at her lips. But just as the conversation began to deepen again, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen. The sudden noise jolted Mia out of her moment of vulnerability, and they both turned to see a server spill an entire tray of dishes. Laughter erupted around the restaurant, filling the air with playful chaos. Mia couldn't help but laugh, the moment lightening the heaviness that had settled. But as they returned to their conversation, David's gaze turned serious once more. "Mia," he said, soft intensity in his voice, "I like what I see in you." Her stomach fluttered, and for a moment she couldn't find words. Did he mean it? Was it just a polite compliment? "I like what I see in you too," she managed, but doubt tainted her voice. He smiled, and just then the waiter approached with dessert, interrupting the moment. "Compliments of the chef," he declared with a flourish, placing a chocolate lava cake between them like an offering. Mia laughed again, feeling the moment slip and dissolve like a wisp of smoke. but she couldn't shake the tingling feeling in her stomach, nor could she ignore the nearly tangible connection lingering in the air like charged electricity. As they wrapped up dinner, Mia couldn't shake the sensation that the night was evolving into something far more significant than she had initially imagined. Every laugh, every shared glance, it felt like they were unraveling each other, letting parts of themselves spill out. David suggested, and she nodded, her heart racing at the thought. Stepping out into the cool evening air, they walked side by side, the night illuminated by gentle streetlights. The park nearby beckoned them with its sprawling trees and winding paths, each step feeling deliberate and meaningful. Mia paused, her mind racing. I think I would travel somewhere spontaneous without planning. David's eyes lit up. That sounds amazing. His words sent a thrill rushing through her, and she realized she couldn't remember the last time someone had made her feel so understood, so alive. The conversation shifted, weaving in and out of dreams and fears, and as they strolled deeper into the park, Mia felt layers of her heart peel back, revealing parts of herself she often kept hidden. This felt different, special, even. Just as they reached a small pond surrounded by trees, David's playful tone shifted again. Mia thought for a moment. I've always wanted to go skydiving. David grinned. Now you're talking, Mia gasped, heart racing at the thought. Why not? The excitement crackled in the air, igniting something deep inside her. It was exhilarating yet terrifying. Just as she was about to respond, the sound of a skateboard rolled nearby, pulling her attention away. David watched as a group of teenagers zipped past, laughing and carefree. Do you see that? They look like they're living, he noted, his gaze thoughtful. Yeah, Mia agreed, watching them. I wish I could feel that freedom. His eyes softened. You don't have to be. Mia felt his sincerity wash over her, wrapping her in warmth. But just then, a familiar figure stepped into view, Sarah, walking her dog on a leash, deep in conversation with a friend. Mia's stomach dropped. She called out, waving awkwardly. Sarah turned, a grin stretching across her face. Just out for a walk. David shot Mia a knowing look, and she couldn't help but laugh awkwardly. It's going well, Sarah said. David shot back, a mischievous glint in his eye. Oh, I definitely am. Mia felt her cheeks heat up as Sarah's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Skydiving, Mia nodded slowly, feeling a blend of excitement and apprehension. Sarah exclaimed, her tone half encouraging, half teasing. Let's just say Mia is ready to take some risks, David quipped lightly, giving Mia a playful nudge. But beneath the light conversation, an unspoken tension lingered, a gravity that pulled them all in. Sarah's gaze shifted to David, her voice dipping a notch. Absolutely, he replied, but Mia felt a tightening in her chest. Would David really care for her as he claimed? As the three of them stood together, a strange awareness settled in the air. Mia glanced from Sarah to David, feeling the weight of her choices press in on her. And just like that, something shifted. David suddenly appeared more real, more grounded. He wasn't just a casual date anymore, he was someone who could see her and understand her fears and aspirations. Let's make a pact, Mia said suddenly, breaking the silence. Not just about skydiving, but about pushing boundaries. David's eyes lit with excitement, and Sarah laughed joyfully. I'm in. Okay then, Mia said, feeling a rush of determination. Let's promise to be brave. As they shook hands, laughter danced in the air, and in that moment Mia understood that this connection was stronger than she realized. The night had unveiled something remarkable, a friendship woven through shared dreams and newfound courage. And as they said their goodbyes, Mia felt lighter, freer than she had in a long while. David leaned in, their eyes locking once more, and she could see the promise of adventure sparking between them. Let's keep talking, I'm serious about this, he said. Mia smiled, feeling a thrill of excitement course through her. Absolutely. As they parted, a mixture of hope and exhilaration filled her chest. She had shaken her head at fear, but instead, she had opened a door into something more, something real. Perhaps life wasn't just about ordinary routines. It could be an exhilarating ride if she dared to embrace it. With David by her side, she knew she was ready to take those steps toward the extraordinary. The question hung in the air, daring Mia to respond. In the bustling coffee shop, the aroma of espresso swirled around them, but Mia felt oddly detached from the warmth of the place. David leaned casually against the counter, his dark hair catching the afternoon light, but all she could feel was the pounding in her chest. I don't think so, she stammered, shaking her head. Each tick of the clock on the wall felt louder, a constant reminder of the moment stretching uncomfortably between them. David's smile faltered, a flicker of disappointment crossing his face. Why not just one dinner? Mia felt the heat rising in her cheeks. Seriously, I have a lot going on, she replied, forcing a laugh as she busied herself with a coffee cup. But it wasn't busy work that made her heart race. It was the idea of being alone with him, of letting him see her, really see her. Then a voice interrupted, light and teasing. Mia, Sarah, her boss, had walked in from the back, a mischievous smile gracing her lips. Mia's heart sank. Sarah exclaimed, her laughter infectious. Mia's eyes darted between Sarah and David, who was clearly enjoying this new turn of events. I was just telling her that she should join me for dinner, he said, his tone playful, but Mia could hear the undertone of sincerity. Without missing a beat, Sarah turned to Mia, arms crossed. You should go. Mia opened her mouth to protest, but Sarah's unwavering gaze forced her to reconsider. Awkward can be fun. Besides, Sarah leaned in closer, lowering her voice. He's a great guy. At that moment, when a gentle chuckle escaped David's lips and his eyes sparkled with encouragement, the walls Mia had built around herself began to crumble. She couldn't remember the last time someone had looked at her that way. The words slipped out before she could change her mind, and she immediately felt a rush of relief mingled with fear. David grinned, and Mia felt a flutter in her stomach. The days that followed were a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Mia found herself glancing at her phone, waiting, wanting to see a message from David. They texted easily, his charm evident in each playful exchange that made her smile and blush in equal measure. Yet as their dinner date approached, the fear bubbled up again. What if she couldn't engage in conversation? What if moments of silence loomed heavy between them? Finally, Saturday arrived. Mia spent an hour standing in front of her mirror, trying on outfit after outfit before settling on a chic, simple navy dress. She glanced at her reflection, mentally cheering herself on. "You can do this," she whispered. When she stepped into the restaurant, the low hum of conversation enveloped her. She spotted David at a corner table, fingers tapping nervously against the surface. As soon as their eyes met, his face brightened like a light bulb igniting in the night. He said, rising to greet her. "Wouldn't miss it," Mia replied, feeling her heart rate slow as she took in his relaxed demeanor. The conversation flowed at first, laughter mingling with sparkling water as they shared stories about their lives. David's enthusiasm shone through every word, and Mia found herself opening up more than she anticipated. Each shared laugh chipped away at her initial nerves, but as the meal progressed, she felt something shift. David leaned in closer, his gaze serious. The question hung in the air, heavy and profound. It struck a chord deep within her, drawing out fears she often kept hidden. "Honestly, I'm not even sure," she admitted, her voice wavering. "I guess I just want." He nodded, his expression encouraging. "You can." Just then, a loud clatter erupted from the kitchen, breaking the spell between them. A server had fumbled a tray, laughter erupting across the dining room. They both turned to watch, the tension dissipating momentarily in a shared grin. But as the plates were cleared and dessert arrived, a decadent chocolate mousse, David leaned in once more. The flutter in her stomach returned, but this time it felt heavier, anchoring her in place. Could he really mean that? "I like what I see in you too," she responded, unsure of whether her voice betrayed the doubt swirling inside her. Before he could reply, a text chimed on her phone, pulling her focus. It was from Sarah. "How's the date going?" Mia's heart sank, panic settling in. She quickly typed a light-hearted reply, but her happiness felt momentarily tainted. "Great," David asked, looking concerned. "Yeah," she said quickly, masking her fluster. David smirked, leaning back in his chair. Mia echoed, momentarily taken aback. "Yeah, we should do it." His playful tone drew her in again, despite the unease swirling in her mind. Mia couldn't shake the absurdity of the idea. The thought made her stomach flip, but simultaneously sent a thrill coursing through her veins. He challenged lightly, his eyes gleaming with excitement. As dessert melted in her mouth, Mia considered his words. She felt a sudden spark of courage bubbling within her. What if she did say yes to adventures? What if she allowed herself to take those risks? By the time they finished dinner, the air thick with laughter and shared dreams, Mia felt alive for the first time in a long while. As they exited the restaurant, David turned to her, vulnerable sincerity in his eyes. She smiled, feeling the exhilaration of the night pushing her forward. Strolling through the park, the night air wrapped around them like a comforting embrace. The stars shimmered above, and Mia felt a sense of peace settle in her chest. They shared more stories, drawing closer with each laugh, each shared glance. The conversation turned deeper as they ambled past a pond adorned with shimmering lights. David asked, his voice lowering like a gentle whisper. Mia hesitated, the vulnerability of the moment washing over her. David grinned, a spark igniting in his eyes. Just then, a group of teenagers skated past, their laughter echoing into the night air. That youthful freedom struck a chord inside Mia. "I wish I could feel that kind of freedom," she mused. "You can," David insisted. "Life is about taking risks, stepping outside your comfort zone." His words resonated deeply, igniting a wave of warmth that filled her with determination. But just as she was about to express her newfound sense of courage, Sarah appeared around the corner, clearly enjoying her night out as well. "Mia," she exclaimed, visibly surprised. Mia replied, her heart racing. She felt exposed, standing there between the two. Sarah asked, her tone teasing. David turned to Mia with a playful glint. "It's great." Mia felt a surge of confidence as she nodded eagerly. "That's right." Sarah clapped her hands excitedly. Moments like this seemed to crumble the walls Mia had carefully built. She called out, a hint of protectiveness in her voice. David shot her a grin. "Absolutely." Mia felt that warmth inside her again, the subtle trust forming a bond between them. As they exchanged goodbyes, David leaned in closer, his voice low and sincere. "Definitely," she replied, her heart fluttering. She felt light, as if taking a step onto a path she'd never had the courage to tread before. In the days following, Mia found herself lost in thought. The world felt vibrant and fuller, the kaleidoscope of color transforming her routine. Every morning she leaned into her work as the barista at her favorite cafe, and each evening she replayed moments from their dance of conversation beneath the stars. A week passed, and as she finished her shift one sunny afternoon, David walked in. The moment their eyes met, a thrill of familiarity surged through her. He asked casually, but in his gaze she saw expectation and warmth. "Good, just finished up," she replied, sliding a fresh cappuccino his way. "Ready for our next adventure," he proposed, his enthusiasm infectious. Mia's breath hitched. The very thought of jumping from a plane sent a rush of adrenaline coursing through her. Absolutely. "Let's do it," he grinned, his confidence radiating. Mia hesitated, the fear creeping in again, but she hesitated in a different way this time. "Okay," she said slowly, her heart pounding. He beamed, and she couldn't help but feel an exhilarating sense of power. "Just like that." "Yep," she replied, firmer now. Their laughter echoed as they finalized the plans, their shared excitement filling the air like the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. But beneath that thrill, she felt something else bloom, an understanding of who she was becoming. That Friday they arrived at the airfield, the vastness of the sky stretching infinitely above them. Mia stood, gripping David's hand, her heart racing with equal parts fear and excitement. He asked, glancing down at her. As the plane ascended, the landscape below turned into a tapestry of colors. Mia felt the rush of wind in her hair, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Every part of her screamed, this was reckless, this was foolish, but somewhere deep down, a voice whispered to embrace it. David shouted, his excitement echoing above the roar of the engines. They finally reached their altitude, and the door of the plane swung open, revealing the endless sky. David gave her a reassuring smile, and in that moment all fears melted away. As they jumped, 1,000 butterflies swirled in her stomach, the rush of air enveloping her like a warm embrace. They free fell together into the vastness, the world below becoming a blur of color and sound, and for those precious moments Mia felt truly alive. They landed, laughter spilling from her lips as she gasped for breath. David pulled her close, exhilaration lighting up his face. "See, no," Mia exclaimed. The thrill surged through her, radiating warmth and joy. In that moment she understood what it meant to embrace life fully, to leap with both feet, to welcome the unknown, and to trust that sometimes the jump could lead to soaring. As they embraced beneath the open sky, laughter mingling with the wind, Mia felt proud of the journey she'd taken, both internally and with David. She had shaken her head at his request, but it was that very choice that opened up a world she never dreamed possible. A vibrant, exhilarating tapestry filled with connections and adventures. And just like that, the ordinary transformed into the extraordinary. Life became an adventure woven through the threads of friendship and courage, and Mia felt ready finally to embrace every thrilling moment ahead. David's voice hung in the air, a daring question that shifted the atmosphere between them. Mia stood behind the cafe counter, her heart thumping against her ribcage like a frantic drum. It was a typical Tuesday afternoon, but his request shattered the ordinary. I don't think so," she replied, shaking her head. She was used to dismissing such offers, preferring her safe little world where people didn't see her too closely. "Just one dinner," he urged, his smile unwavering, but Mia felt the weight of her hesitation. It was easy to laugh and flirt over coffee cups, but this was stepping into unknown territory, and fear wrapped around her like a thick fog. "Really, I'm busy," she muttered, casting her gaze downward, hoping to salvage her composure. Her fingers danced nervously over the countertop, wanting to be anywhere but under his scrutinizing gaze. Then, just like that, Sarah appeared, her boss striding in with her usual blend of energy and warmth. "What's this?" Mia felt a rush of embarrassment. "Oh, it's nothing, just David here thinks you should go." Sarah cut her off, her playful tone infectious. Mia's eyes darted between them, a mixture of confusion and irritation brewing inside her. "It's really not a big deal," she protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Sarah waved her hands dismissively. "You need to get out more." Mia swallowed hard, all eyes on her. David's curious and Sarah's expectant. The weight of their gazes pressed down on her, and just like that, something shifted. Could she really say yes? David leaned closer, his voice softening. "Mia, please." "Okay, fine." "One dinner," she blurted out, surprising even herself. David's face lit up brighter than the overhead lights in the cafe. As the days passed, Mia found herself in a whirlwind of thoughts. For someone who was usually so guarded, the space between them felt electric. Every time her phone chimed, she couldn't help but look, hoping for a message, a hint of what their dinner might be like. But soon the excitement was accompanied by an uncomfortable knot in her stomach. Would there be silences? Awkward moments. Saturday arrived, bringing with it a torrent of nerves. Mia stood before her closet, tossing aside clothes one after another, searching for the perfect outfit. After trying on what felt like 20 different tops, she finally settled on a simple black dress that fit just right. The mirror reflected her apprehension, but she also saw something else, a glimmer of determination. When she stepped into the restaurant, the world outside faded away. The ambient light glowed softly against the dark wood of the furniture, and the faint sound of clinking glasses and laughter surrounded her. She spotted David at a small table in the corner, looking handsome and decidedly less nervous than she felt. "Hey," he exclaimed, clearly relieved as he stood to greet her. Wouldn't miss it, she said, her pulse quickening as his warm smile hit her like a wave. The conversation flowed easily at first, laughter mingling with freshly baked bread and the rich aroma of dinner plates. David shared stories about his work, his passion so evident that Mia found herself leaning in, hanging onto every word. As they talked, she could feel the fear sliding away piece by piece, like shedding layers after a long, cold winter. But as dessert arrived and their conversations began to dip into deeper waters, David turned to her, sincerity etched on his face. The question hung heavy, and for the first time it felt like everything else faded into the background. She hesitated, a nervous knot tightening in her stomach. I think I want to feel alive, she admitted quietly, the weight of her own vulnerability washing over her like a sudden storm. David's eyes softened and he leaned closer. You don't have to be stuck. Life is too short for that, he encouraged gently. Mia felt a rush of emotions, a spark of hope mingled with fear. He was asking her to dream bigger, and she wanted to, desperately. But just as the moment pooled with intensity, a loud crash interrupted their connection, platters spilling and silverware clattering as a server stumbled near the kitchen. Laughter erupted around them, breaking the gravity of their conversation. Mia blinked, chuckling at the chaotic scene, her anxiety diffusing in an instant. But as the plates were cleared and their conversation shifted back, David's expression turned serious again. Mia, you're special, her heart beat wildly, cheeks warming under his gaze. Thanks, she murmured, unsure of what to say. Just then her phone buzzed on the table, pulling her attention away from the moment. She glanced down, seeing a message from Sarah. How's the date? Mia felt her breath catch, a blend of embarrassment and anxiety. She replied quickly, typing away. David smirked, watching her with a knowing look. Mia's voice squeaked slightly. Why not? You mentioned wanting to feel alive. Let's do something unforgettable, he replied effortlessly, excitement radiating from him. A rush of adrenaline shot through her. Of course, life's too short to play it safe. The thought sent a thrill through her, chasing away the last remnants of doubt. Maybe she could seize this opportunity. She paused for a moment, contemplating all the moments she'd stood at the edge and retreated into her comfort zone. She said, feeling a spark of courage. David's eyes widened with delight. Really? Yeah, she said, finality creeping into her voice. As a wave of excitement coursed through her, they found themselves laughing again, the energy flowing between them like electricity. After dinner, they strolled through the park, the night air cool against her skin. As they passed beneath a canopy of trees sprinkled with stars, Mia felt a sense of belonging that she hadn't experienced in a long time. David asked, nudging her playfully. Mia thought for a moment, feeling bold. Maybe I should try stand-up comedy, he exclaimed, looking genuinely inspired. As they wandered deeper into the park, their laughter echoed against the night sky, the world around them fading into a blur. Mia felt lighter, the weight of her responsibilities and worries retreating with each step they took. She had spent too long in her safe cocoon, afraid to stretch her wings, but tonight felt different. Just as she was starting to believe in this new version of herself, a familiar figure walked into view. Sarah was out for her evening stroll with her dog, her gaze bright and welcoming. She called, spotting them, clearly surprised. Mia replied, her heart racing, a mix of delight and panic. Did she really want her boss to see her like this? Sarah teased, a sparkle in her eye. Yeah, Sarah interjected, her tone playful. David stepped forward, a devil-may-care grin on his face. Mia felt repulsed and exhilarated all at once, watching her boss's eyes widen with a blend of astonishment and amusement. Sarah exclaimed, her voice dripping with disbelief and delight. Good for you, Mia. Mia felt a rush of warmth at Sarah's support. She could feel David's gaze, confident and encouraging. When did her life pivot to this open horizon? As Sarah left, Mia looked up at David, who seemed unfazed by the interruption. He asked as they resumed walking. She asked, her voice trembling a little. No, about us, David said, softening. Mia hesitated. It feels unreal. Of course, it's all about making choices together. Just then their pacing slowed, the atmosphere seeming to thicken with a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. She asked, vulnerability flooding her words. David paused, searching her eyes. Then we'll find something else to explore together. That's life. In that moment, the fear slipped away, replaced by an understanding. They were both searching for something. Life was meant to be lived, not just endured. With a newfound confidence, Mia smiled back at him. The evening lingered on, their conversation ebbing and flowing like the gentle sound of rustling leaves. And as they stood beneath the stars, Mia felt a sense of connection she had craved for a long time. Something blossomed between them, trust, potential, adventure. After a while, David turned to her, a seriousness in his eyes. Mia took a deep breath, her heart pounding with excitement. Let's make a pact. David nodded vigorously. As they sealed their pact with a handshake, Mia felt a surge of clarity. This was just the beginning, a beacon illuminating a path toward authenticity. Days turned into weeks, and the pair explored everything they had promised each other. They went skydiving, and Mia marveled at how free she felt, gliding through the air like a bird finally unfurling its wings. They took weekend trips, laughter spilling into the night as they shared ghost stories around campfires. They fell into a rhythm, a dance of encouragement that pushed them both to grow. Every moment deepened their connection, every adventure fueled their desire to explore. There was a joy she had never known, liberated from the confines of self-doubt, wrapping herself in this newfound vigor. Then one evening, after sharing a meal at their favorite diner, David looked at her with a seriousness that made her stomach flutter. She held her breath, sensing the weight of the moment. "I want you to know how much you mean to me," he said softly, words hanging in the air like delicate glass. Her heart raced. "Mia," he continued, "you've challenged me too." In that moment, she felt an overwhelming wave of warmth, a connection that felt deeper than just a fleeting romance. The two of them had ventured into uncharted territory together, discovering parts of themselves they hadn't realized were buried under fear and indecision. With that, their fingers intertwined, sealing the promise of something beautiful and real. And just like that, life transformed. What began as a simple invitation to dinner blossomed into a tapestry of adventures, challenges, and dreams, a bond fraying the edges of their individual worlds, weaving them intricately together. Mia had shaken her head at his request, but it turned out that headshake had been the first step toward a life fully lived. Now, with every adventure ahead, she felt ready to embrace the thrill of the unknown, hand in hand with someone who believed in her potential just as much as she had begun to believe in herself. David's voice sliced through the morning chatter of the cafe, leaving Mia momentarily stunned. She stood behind the counter, her hands frozen mid-preparation, the rich aroma of coffee surrounding her like a comforting blanket. But in that moment, nothing felt comfortable. I don't think so," she said, shaking her head as if the action alone could dismiss the request. There was that familiar knot in her stomach, the one that seemed to tighten every time someone tried to peel back the layers she'd wrapped around herself. David leaned in closer, determination gleaming in his eyes. Just one dinner. Mia felt heat creeping into her cheeks. She loved that he was bold, that spark of confidence made him hard to ignore. But this was territory she hadn't ventured into in a long time. "I'm really busy," she replied, her voice lacking conviction, hoping to hide behind her tight routine. "Busy is overrated," he countered, playful yet earnest. Just then, a familiar voice chimed in, breaking the tension. Mia, Sarah, her boss, had walked in, her vibrant energy illuminating the space. "Oh, nothing, just a casual conversation," Mia stammered, an awkward smile plastered on her face. Sarah teased, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Mia's heart sank. She darted a glance at David, who looked surprised but pleased. "I think she should totally say yes," Sarah continued, grinning. Mia's stomach twisted. "I really don't think it's a good idea," she protested weakly. "Why not? You deserve to go out and enjoy life a little. Step outside your comfort zone, Mia," Sarah encouraged, her voice filled with warmth and authority. David nodded, his smile widening. Exactly, just one dinner. Mia hesitated, her mind racing. Sure, she was a barista, pouring coffee and serving pastries, but who was she outside those four walls? Did she even know? Before she could formulate an escape, sarcasm surged through her. "You know, I'm really great at making excuses for not going out," she joked, attempting to lighten the mood. "You're better at serving lattes," David replied with a wink. The banter flowed effortlessly, but uncertainty still gnawed at Mia. Then Sarah stepped in again, softening her tone. "Mia, I know you're much more than that. You can't keep hiding behind your job forever." Fun. The word lingered in the air, inviting yet daunting. Slowly, gradually, she felt those walls start to crumble, like the last embers of a dying fire. David beamed, a grin lighting up his face that made her heart skip a beat. "Great, let's go for Friday," he suggested. "Deal," Mia replied, her heart racing, lingering fears pushing to the back of her mind. As the week crawled toward their dinner date, Mia found herself oscillating between excitement and dread. Every text exchange with David ignited a spark within her. His charm, coupled with a curious honesty, was like a breath of fresh air. Still, the fear of vulnerability lingered in her thoughts. What if I can't keep up? By the time Friday arrived, Mia felt a whirlwind of emotions as she stood in front of her mirror, assessing every detail. She wore a fitted blue dress that reminded her of the ocean deep, soothing yet unpredictable. After a dozen adjustments, she felt ready, at least on the outside. Walking into the restaurant, the soft glow of candlelight enveloped her, the buzz of mutual laughter and clinking glasses wrapping around like a warm embrace. Her eyes quickly found David seated at a small table by the window. He looked effortlessly handsome, a gentle confidence radiating from him. "Hey, you made it," he exclaimed, his relief evident as he stood to greet her. "I wouldn't miss it," she replied, her heart pounding, a mix of excitement and trepidation flooding her senses. The conversation started off easy, flowing like the wine in their glasses. They laughed over shared stories, discussing everything from favorite music to embarrassing childhood moments. Mia felt the tension slip away, her guard softening. But as the entrees arrived and the conversation transitioned to deeper topics, David leaned in, his expression shifting. The weight of the question settled on her chest like an anchor. Mia hesitated, her mind racing. "I think I just want to feel alive," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. David's eyes held hers, understanding dancing within their depths. "You don't have to be stuck." A flicker of hope ignited within her. Maybe he was right, maybe this dinner was just the first step. But before she could voice that thought, a loud crash erupted from the kitchen, shaking the moment. A server had dropped a tray, drawing laughter from the nearby tables as chaos momentarily reigned. Mia chuckled, feeling a sense of release. The energy shifted and the tension diffused as dessert arrived, a decadent chocolate mousse. Mia grinned, apprehension evaporating like mist in the sun, but the moment was interrupted once more as her phone buzzed on the table, pulling her focus away. It was a text from Sarah. "How's the date?" Mia's cheeks flared with embarrassment. "It's great, the dessert is amazing," she quickly typed back, hoping to maintain the illusion of control. David caught a glimpse, a smirk on his face. "Just a little," she admitted, glancing up to see the teasing light in his gaze. "Funny, right? We're just two adults having dinner. Must be a sign of how boring I am," David quipped, but his eyes had a spark of sincerity, urging her to let go even more. "That's not it at all. I mean, you're anything but boring," Mia replied, smiling softly. Soon they were lost in conversation again, dreams and aspirations spilling like wine over their plates. Yet as the laughter settled, she felt a flicker of uncertainty settle back in. Could she really take risks? She echoed, her heart racing. "Absolutely, you showed up, stepped outside your comfort zone." Mia felt warmth rush through her. Maybe this was what it meant to truly connect, to let someone in. After dinner, they stepped outside, the night air cool against her skin as they walked along the path, illuminated by the soft glow of street lamps. David turned to her, a hint of seriousness filling the space between them. He asked, glancing up at the sky painted dark, studded with stars. She repeated, caught off guard, "I don't know." Exactly, there was an earnestness in his expression, an invitation wrapped in excitement. Mia hesitated but caught a glimpse of that familiar spark, the desire to leap, the urge to meet her fears head-on. "Okay, a pact." As they laughed and sealed their pact with a playful handshake, a surge of excitement flooded through her. She felt more alive than she ever thought possible. Days turned into weeks and life moved at a whirlwind pace. They became inseparable, exploring the world around them, embracing their pact as they ventured into the unknown. Skydiving turned into weekend road trips, and with every shared adventure, Mia felt herself emerging from the shell she'd long inhabited. One afternoon, as they lounged on the beach, sun warming their skin, Mia turned to David. David chuckled. Feeling bold, Mia reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. In that moment, underneath the vast expanse of blue sky, something inside her solidified a realization that taking risks could lead to beautiful, transformative experiences. But then came a day when everything shifted. It was a Friday evening and the cafe had just closed. The soft glow of the lights illuminated the familiar space she had woven into the fabric of her life, yet it suddenly felt stifling. Sarah approached, sensing her unease. "What's on your mind, Mia?" Mia hesitated, glancing around at her boss. "I'm not sure what to do next." Sarah prompted gently, "I'm afraid it'll end." Sarah nodded knowingly. "Everyone carries that fear, Mia. The key is to address it, don't let it hold you back." Inspired by Sarah's words, Mia thought back to how she had shaken her head at David's request, wondering if she could let herself dream bigger. With renewed determination, she decided she wouldn't shy away from her fears anymore. Later that night, she texted David, "Can we talk?" The reply was swift, "Of course." When they met up, Mia felt a rush of adrenaline wash over her. "David, I feel like I'm at a crossroads in my life," she started, her voice steady but vulnerable. "I was so fearful before I met you, but I want to keep pushing forward. I want to keep growing." David looked at her, a bright smile emerging. "That's exactly what I want too." Mia felt warmth envelop her, the weight of shared aspirations pulling them together. They sealed their conversation with a promise, a pact forged in growth, determination, and an understanding that life would constantly challenge and inspire them. And so, as days turned to months, life transformed into a vibrant tapestry of visibility and connection. They celebrated small victories and welcomed challenges, surfing through waves of joy and vulnerability. In a world that often asked them to retreat back into their shells, Mia had found her voice and purpose, all because of one fateful dinner invitation. David never became just a casual date. He became a partner in every sense of the word, a co-adventurer in this unpredictable journey they called life. Mia understood that shaking her head at his initial request had opened a door, and now she felt exhilarated stepping through it. The adventure was only just beginning. With each experience, each new leap, she was ready to embrace every moment, feeling alive right by his side. The words hung in the air, a bold request that shattered the familiar rhythm of the cafe. Mia stood behind the counter, the chatter of customers and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee fading into the background as she stared at David, who leaned casually against the counter. Her heart raced. She glanced down, pretending to organize the sugar packets, avoiding the intensity of his gaze. I don't think so," she mumbled, shaking her head, the denial tumbling out before she could grasp the moment. David's smile faltered for just a heartbeat, but then he leaned in closer, eyes sparkling with determination. "Why not? It's just one dinner." Mia felt her cheeks heat up. This was the guy who always walked in with an easy grin, who made her laugh when her day felt long and tiring. But the thought of spending time with him outside of this familiar space filled her with a mixture of excitement and dread. "I'm just busy with work," she replied, a weak excuse even in her own ears. "Busy doing what?" he teased, but there was something sincere in his tone that made her heart flutter for a split second. Before she could respond, the bell above the cafe door jingled, and in walked Sarah, her boss, the embodiment of energy and warmth. She asked playfully, her eyes darting between Mia and David. "Oh, nothing," Mia stammered, trying to deflect attention while her pulse quickened. "David here was asking you out," Sarah said, an undeniable sparkle in her eye. Mia turned bright red, caught in the crossfire of their anticipation. Sarah interjected, crossing her arms as if that would seal the deal. "Mia, you need to take a chance, just one dinner." Mia shifted on her feet, torn between embarrassment and the thrill of the moment. She was used to staying tucked away in her routine, never straying too far from what felt safe and familiar. She trailed off, but the resolve in Sarah's voice echoed in her mind. "Come on, you never go out," Sarah urged, and for the first time it felt like the stakes were higher than they appeared. David leaned a little closer, lowering his voice, yet somehow making the moment feel weighty. "I promise you'll have a good time," he said softly, a genuine smile returning to his face. And just like that, something inside Mia shifted. Could she really step outside her comfort zone? Could she allow someone new into her life? "Okay, fine, one dinner," she relented, almost surprised by her own spontaneity. The grin that spread across David's face ignited warmth within her, and as the days counted down to Friday, excitement danced in tandem with anxiety. The week passed slowly, every day filled with an undercurrent of anticipation that left a tingle in her stomach. Mia found herself checking her phone constantly, waiting for a message, a glimpse of what the evening would entail. Each ping sent a thrill through her, reminding her of the possibility of change. Finally, Friday arrived, and as she stood in front of her mirror, anxiety settled in like an unwelcome guest. She rifled through her clothing, trying on outfit after outfit until she settled on a simple red dress that hugged her curves just right. In that moment, she felt beautiful, and for the first time in ages, she felt like she might be exciting rather than just ordinary. When Mia entered the restaurant, the rich aroma of gourmet food wrapped around her. She glanced around, taking in the warm candlelight and soft whispers that filled the air. At a small table by the window sat David, looking handsome in a crisp white shirt, his usual easy smile lighting up his face. He exclaimed as she approached, standing to greet her with an energy that was contagious. "Wouldn't miss it," she replied, feeling a spark of excitement welling up inside her. As they settled into their seats, the initial awkwardness began to dissipate. They shared stories over delicious food, laughing easily as they talked about everything from favorite movies to childhood memories. Mia felt herself relax, her earlier fears fading away, layer by layer. But as dinner continued and the conversation grew deeper, Mia could feel the atmosphere shift again. David leaned in, his face suddenly serious. The question took her by surprise. She stammered, trying to formulate an answer as the reality of her life crashed over her like a wave. I don't know." David's gaze held hers, searching for something deeper. "You deserve to feel alive then," he replied, his tone earnest. Mia's heart raced with the intensity of the moment. Could he possibly see her in a way that she struggled to see herself? Just then, a loud crash erupted from the back of the restaurant as a waiter dropped a tray, sending silverware clattering to the floor. Laughter erupted from nearby tables, sending ripples of energy through the room. Mia chuckled, the tension lifting momentarily. "Looks like chaos reigns," she joked, allowing herself to lean back into her chair, the spirit of the evening returning. As dessert arrived, a decadent slice of chocolate cake, Mia felt the warmth of the conversation wash over her, and she found herself smiling more than she had in a long time. Just then, her phone buzzed on the table, pulling her attention away from the moment. It was a text from Sarah. "How's the date going?" Her heart sank for a moment. "It's great," Mia replied quickly, but the intrusion felt like a damper on their otherwise intimate atmosphere. David raised an eyebrow, mischief dancing in his eyes. Mia laughed lightly, shrugging it off. David teased, leaning in with a grin. "She thinks you're quite charming," Mia replied, her heart pattering at his intent look. The conversation shifted, weaving in and out like a dance, and as the evening progressed, Mia felt the walls she had built around herself begin to crumble. She found herself sharing secrets, the little dreams tucked away and buried under layers of routine and fear. But the closer they got to the end of the meal, the more Mia felt that familiar knot tighten in her stomach. She asked, the words tumbling out as her vulnerability spilled onto the table. David paused, searching her eyes with a seriousness that made her heart race. What if it does? Just as she thought about embracing that leap, the restaurant filled with laughter once more, shifting her focus. After they finished dinner, the two stepped outside, the cool night air wrapping around them like a comforting blanket. David gestured toward a park nearby, twinkling lights guiding their way. "Sure," Mia said, her stomach fluttering at the thought. As they walked together hand in hand, the stars overhead twinkled brightly, reflecting the exhilaration bubbling within her. David asked, glancing at her, serious yet anticipating. "I guess whatever we make of it," she replied, her mind racing with possibilities. "Yes. Let's promise to always keep pushing ourselves, to keep exploring," he declared, excitement lacing his words. Mia could feel that spark of connection between them, like a thread slowly weaving two separate lives into one. "Yes, a pact, let's do it," she replied with newfound confidence. They sealed their agreement with a playful handshake, laughter ringing out, echoing through the trees. For the first time in a long while, Mia felt free, unburdened by the weight of expectations. As the weeks turned into months, Mia embraced every opportunity, every challenge. Skydiving, dancing, visiting unfamiliar places, they became milestones marking her transformation. Alongside David, she felt alive, constantly pushing against her boundaries. But then one day, the unexpected happened. There was a send-off party for Sarah, who had received a promotion in a different city. Mia was excited for her, but felt anxiety creeping back in as the cafe bustled with life and friends celebrating. After the party, Mia found herself alone in the cafe, the lights dimmed, the sound of laughter fading away. Sarah approached her, sensing the change in her demeanor. Sarah's expression softened. "Change is part of life. You've stepped out of your comfort zone, but it's also okay to feel scared about what lies ahead. It sounds like you're building something meaningful." Emboldened by Sarah's words, Mia thought of every moment that had led her here. She decided to text David, "Can we meet?" He arrived, a smile brightening his face. Mia took a deep breath, the weight of her thoughts pressing against her. "David, I've been thinking a lot about our pact, about taking risks." His expression turned serious and he stepped closer. "Mia, change is always intimidating, but we've both come so far." Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes and she felt the sincerity of his words wash over her. "You're right, you won't lose me that easily," he assured her, his hand gently squeezing hers. "Let's embrace every challenge together." As they stood in that moment, hearts open, Mia realized she had transformed more than just her lifestyle. She had transformed her outlook on life. And thus, with every leap they took, every challenge they faced, their connection grew stronger. David had become a partner, an ally in the quest for joy and adventure. What had once scared her had transformed into something beautiful. It turned out to be the best decision she'd ever made when she finally said yes to a simple dinner. Now, standing together against the vast possibilities of life, Mia felt ready to embrace whatever came next, hand in hand with someone who inspired her to soar. She understood that it was these very moments of risk that ignited the flames of passion from within, allowing her to become everything she had ever dreamed of being, and so much more. Mia shook her head, laughter escaping her lips, but inside her heart raced. The cafe was bustling with the usual sounds, a barista's cheerful banter, the hiss of steam from the espresso machine, and the low murmur of conversation. But in that moment, it felt as if the world had narrowed to just her and David, the tall, charming regular who always came in just before closing time. "No, really, I can't. I've got plans," she replied, avoiding his gaze, her fingers nervously arranging sugar packets. The truth, her plans involved becoming a couch potato with her favorite series for the third night in a row. David leaned against the counter, a playful grin spreading across his face. Mia couldn't help but smile back, but the flutter in her stomach was unsettling. Sarah, her boss, strode in, a burst of energy that brightened the already lively cafe. "Oh, nothing," Mia said hastily, a nervous laugh escaping her. "Well, David here thinks you should join him for dinner," Sarah interjected, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Mia felt heat creep into her cheeks, turning her voice sheepish. "No, that's not true, of course it is." Sarah's enthusiasm echoed around them. Mia's heart sank. She didn't want to make a scene, but the idea of going out with David, of stepping into a world of unpredictability, sent a wave of panic crashing over her. She preferred the comfort of the cafe and the routine that had become her life. "Come on, Mia, just one dinner. You never know what might happen," David encouraged, his tone warm and inviting. Sarah waved her hands in the air like a conductor leading an orchestra. "It could be the best decision you make all week." Mia glanced from David's hopeful gaze to Sarah's encouraging smile, feeling the walls around her heart begin to strain. "Okay, just one dinner," she finally said, the words spilling out before she could think better of it. David's grin lit up the room, and for a second she felt a rush of adrenaline, but the next moment tangled with doubt. What would that dinner entail? As the week rushed by, each day became a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Mia couldn't shake the feeling of being out of her depth. What would they talk about? Could she really let down her guard? Friday arrived, and the tension felt palpable. Standing in front of her mirror, Mia tried on outfits, discarding them one by one. Whatever she wore felt like a representation of everything she wasn't, a girl who went out on dates and embraced adventure. Finally, she settled on a soft, flowing dress that felt comfortable but also just a bit daring. With a deep breath, she stepped into the restaurant, the intimate lighting casting a warm glow across the tables. The scent of Italian food wafted through the air, yet all she could see was David sitting at a small table, looking particularly handsome in a fitted shirt. He said, standing to greet her, genuine excitement lighting up his face. "Of course," Mia replied, her heart thumping louder than she expected. As she took her seat, she could feel the mix of thrill and nerves swirling inside her. The conversation began light and playful. They bantered back and forth effortlessly, sharing laughs over pasta and wine. Everything felt easy until David leaned closer, his expression shifting. The question hung like a weight in the air. Mia's heart raced, thoughts swirling as she tried to find her footing. I want to feel alive, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. There was a silence that enveloped them, and she could see the sincerity in his eyes. It was as if he had unlocked something buried deep within her. The atmosphere was charged, pulsing with potential, before breaking apart as the waiter approached with dessert, a rich chocolate torte that practically melted in her mouth. It was delicious, but at that moment Mia felt the heaviness return, with the tension lingering just beneath the surface. The weight of their unspoken connection hung like a tightrope between them, and as they exchanged glances, Mia felt her resolve wavering. Could she really be this open? Could she trust him? Just as she felt ready to unravel, her phone buzzed on the table, pulling her from the moment. It was a text from Sarah. "How's the date going?" Mia's heart sank, and she quickly typed back, "Great." But amidst the laughter shrouding the restaurant, the message felt intrusive. David raised an eyebrow, curiosity dancing in his eyes. Mia shrugged casually. The conversation resumed, but the thrill of the moment began to fade, stealing some of the magic they had cultivated. What if David learned too much about her? What if he didn't find her as interesting as he thought? "Let's hang out after this," David said, suddenly serious. Mia hesitated, uncertainty clouding her mind. What if? His expression softened, but the fear lurked just beneath the surface. Just then, a loud crash erupted from the kitchen, a waiter fumbling with a tray, sending glasses clattering to the floor. Laughter cascaded through the dining area, and Mia couldn't help but chuckle, her nerves easing just a little. After dinner, they strolled through the park across the street, the cool evening air caressing their skin. Each step felt like a small adventure, but also a calculated risk. As they found themselves beneath the stars, their conversation shifted again, each word unraveling another layer of uncertainty. David asked, glancing over at her, the moonlight catching his eyes. "I want to feel free," Mia replied boldly, pushing through the veil of fear. David nodded, enthusiasm igniting in him. "Then let's jump together." As he spoke, the warmth of connection wrapped around her, igniting sparks of courage. But just as she felt ready to embrace that next part of her journey, they were interrupted by the sound of laughter approaching. A group of friends strolled by, and in the crowd, one friendly voice rose above the rest. "Look." Mia turned to see Sarah waving at her, a huge grin on her face. David chuckled, shifting his gaze toward Mia. Mia laughed nervously, the moment suddenly shifted into an unexpected spotlight. "Well, whatever happens, don't forget this evening," David said, his tone sincere. And just like that, the moment took on a new intensity. Sarah approached them, her energy electric. "Mia, I'm glad to see you out, thanks." "We've been enjoying the evening," Mia replied, feeling shy under her boss's watchful gaze. "Be careful, though," Sarah continued, her eyes twinkling with humor. Mia felt a flutter in her heart, a mix of excitement and apprehension. David stepped closer, confidence radiating. Adventure, spontaneity. The laughter faded as Sarah joined in, both of them momentarily caught in the lightness of the evening. As they exchanged farewells and broke away from the crowd, Mia felt a shift in the air, a blend of intrigue and trepidation. What was she truly ready for? As they continued their walk, the atmosphere shifted once again, and the air crackled with potential. David glanced over at her, his mind clearly working through the unspoken tension. "You know, I didn't think you'd say yes," he admitted quietly, the sincerity in his voice touching her heart. "Neither did I," Mia confessed, pausing momentarily. He pressed gently, looking for the truth buried within her, because sometimes you have to push yourself. David smiled again, and the connection between them felt electric, a force that thrummed beneath the surface. Just then, a shadow moved nearby, and Mia startled, glancing around. A figure slipped into her line of sight, a man, wearing a hoodie and jeans, moving through the park with a sense of urgency. She whispered to David, her heart racing. "Yeah," he replied, eyes narrowing as he turned to follow the figure's path. Before they could speculate further, they heard loud footsteps trailing behind them. The man turned abruptly and made direct eye contact with them, his eyes dark and cold. A chill ran down Mia's spine, and she felt an unsettling shift in the air. "Let's go," David said firmly, taking her hand and guiding her back towards the bustling streets. Mia's heart pounded in her chest. She felt safe with David, but the fear crashed over her again. They were just two people enjoying a night out, and yet here they were, thrust into an unexpected moment of tension. Mia asked, glancing back as they walked quickly away. As they picked up their pace, the thrill of the night mingled awkwardly with fear, everything they had built together torn from its idyllic foundation. Then suddenly, from behind them, the familiar laughter echoed again. A group of young adults approached, careless and carefree, oblivious to the tension of the previous moments. Mia and David exchanged looks. What was that feeling? It was as if the delicate thread of magic they had woven was beginning to fray. "Let's step into that diner," David suggested, motioning toward a brightly lit building across the street. A subtle but palpable tension remained, threading through the warmth of their moments together. As they entered the diner, the clatter of dishes and murmur of conversation welcomed them back into a world that felt safe, yet the residual unease lingered. "I'm glad we're here," Mia exhaled, trying to regain her composure. Me too, David said, glancing around. That was, yeah, Mia whispered, her heart still racing. She felt a weight settle over her, an uncertainty that hadn't been there before. Did they have the courage to embrace the unknown? David leaned closer, his voice low and steady. You know, whatever happens, I'm glad I'm with you. In that moment, a warmth blossomed within her, but just as quickly, something deep in her gut felt like a warning. She had stepped into something new, something exhilarating, but now the fear of losing it all began to creep into her thoughts. As she looked into David's eyes, the uncertainty mingled with the warmth, swirling together like a storm brewing on the horizon. Were they prepared for whatever was coming next? Suddenly, a loud commotion erupted from outside the diner as several voices called out, and Mia and David turned simultaneously. What they saw sent a shiver down Mia's spine, the same figure from earlier, now darting past the diner, his expression desperate and wild, as if he were being chased. Mia shouted instinctively, grabbing David's arm. As they rushed toward the door, the world outside exploded in chaos, and Mia's heart raced with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. Each step felt heavy, fraught with uncertainty about what awaited them. Together they braced themselves against whatever was about to unfold. With every nerve in her body alert, Mia knew one thing for sure. This was a turning point, and whether they faced danger or opportunity, everything was about to change. And as they stepped into the night hand in hand, the adventure they had begun just days ago swelled into something far more perilous and vibrant than either of them had ever imagined.